Welcome to Around the 412. We are part of allsteelers.com and proudly presented by Crowworthy, where winners are serving winners coast to coast with sports, gambling, fantasy, and more. You can follow Crowworthy at Crowworthy Takes on Twitter. You can visit us at crowworthy.com. You can also check out the Crowworthy Pittsburgh City page for podcasts just like this one, blogs by us, and more. I'm Tyler, and with me as always is Smitty. What's going on, man?
Four away
now. Yeah, guys, we're on the road to 10K by the time you're listening to this, or maybe you're in the live stream now. We are probably going to be hitting 10K followers, which is pretty neat.
Unreal. Yeah, we tweeted this out yesterday. I mean, we've been wanting to get to 10K. That's been our goal for a while. We talked about it a lot. We were like, what do we need to do? I hit you up yesterday. I was like, yo, listen, we need to hit 10K. Let's just give away some Steeler tickets if we hit that milestone before the Hall of Fame game.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking at the time, oh, this will probably take a little bit. We need 900 some followers. We gained 900 some followers in one day.
Yeah,
crazy. So we need 6 more to hit this. We're not going to wait around, by the way. Once we hit 10K, that same day, we are going to give away Steeler tickets to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
My boy JR is in the comments already. JR, what is going on?
Also, that doesn't mean you guys have to stop following us when we give away.
No,
listen,
we're not sitting at 10K. We're just going to hit a new milestone after that. Keep going.
We want next 20K. Try to get us there by, I don't know, next Steelers season. How about that? But
I know what you're thinking. No, there is not going to be a Steeler ticket giveaway every time that we hit a milestone. Or at least don't expect it. There actually might be, but at least don't expect it.
Yeah, no, listen, we wanted to get to the 10,000 followers not only is it just a big milestone, but it looks cool on Twitter when it doesn't have the actual number. It just says 10K.
You won't know the exact number.
10.1K. Yeah, exactly. It just looks unique. We wanted to get there. You guys are getting us there. So we, in appreciation for that, we're going to give away some Steeler tickets to a lucky one of you.
Also, once we wrap this up, I have to pick our subscriber of the month to win the autographed Deontay Johnson jersey. So
yeah,
a lot of stuff going on with Around the 412 this evening. But we can talk about all that stuff later. I do want to just say real quick to kind of just talk about all this stuff again. I end every show by thanking you guys for listening to the show, but it's kind of generic, right? It sounds the exact same every time that I say it. So as opposed to doing that, and I'm still going to do it at the end, I want to open this show by just telling you guys how much we appreciate all the continued support. We talk about it all the time on this show. We talk about it every single time that we go on another podcast, this great podcast tour that we've been on right now, where every time we go on a show, they just give us so much praise, and it all comes back to you guys. I mean, again, we're about to hit 10,000 followers on Twitter, which is absolutely ridiculous. And you guys are just unreal. The people that actually listen to the show, we can't thank you enough. But more than that, because we talk about, Rockin' Around the 412 being the biggest thing that we do, I would rather have those people donate to Rockin' Around the 412 as opposed to listen to the show. I mean, do both. But if I got to pick one, it's, be a part of the community and donate to the great cause. And you guys have showed up in spades to do that. So this community that we've built with the Around the 412 brand, I don't even like to just say podcast or show at this point. It's just completely overtaken that. It's its own thing at this point. So everybody that's a part of this Around the 412 community, we can't thank you enough for whatever your participation level is with this thing, whether it's watching the show, listening to the show, interacting with us on Twitter, whatever it might be. You're part of something much bigger, and we can't thank you enough.
Yeah, it's crazy how many of you guys are telling people, I mean, especially over the past day since we've been trying to get to these 10,000 followers, how many people are shouting us out, telling people to follow us, tag us and stuff. A lot of people were tagging us in that Pat McAfee tweet earlier today. That'd be sick if we got the 10K for Around the Rock and Around the 412. But I mean, all of you guys, the kind words saying how you love the show, you love our Twitter, the interaction with everybody. I mean, that's what we're here for. I mean, not only are we trying to provide some fun sports content for you guys, but we just like interacting with you guys on Twitter, in person, whenever we're at games or anything. And the fact that we're able to do this for, I mean, I guess we could say we're doing it for 10,000 people technically now, as opposed to when we first started, we were basically only doing it for ourselves. I mean, that's crazy. And like Smitty said, that's all thanks to you guys. And it's been a wild ride. And let's keep it going.
I'm glad that you brought up the Pat McAfee thing, because that's honestly like what made me think about this. Wanting to get on here and just try to express my gratitude. I'll never be able to find the words to appropriately thank everybody for whatever their participation level is with Around the 412 and Rocking Around the 412 and everything that we've done. But I try to find the words every time that we come on this show to thank people, because it's unreal the growth that we've seen in the 4 years. And now to the point where, like you said today, just like within these last 24 hours, it's been unreal to see what, everybody giving us a shout out, trying to direct people our way to tell people that we are one of the best things going in Pittsburgh when it comes to sports content. They should follow us for reasons other than giveaways. And then specifically today with the Pat McAfee thing, it was like, wow. I mean, regardless of if we, somehow get $10,000 from Pat McAfee or anything towards the Rocking Around the 412 mission, just the fact that people thought about us. And it started with Mike, so we got to give Mike a shout out. But then everybody kind of, branched off from that and in their own way was explaining the way that we've impacted them, whether it was their family specifically. We've impacted our, friends, families, the last couple of Christmases, obviously, along with some people who we had never met before, or people that just see the stuff that we do. And in that way, it impacts them. But I want to let everybody know that it is, again, so much bigger than us. Without the Mikes, donating the amount of money they do, without guys like Jeff Hartley with the Pirates who donated what he did, without Crowworthy, without everybody, like every single dollar counts and every single dollar goes to this people, which is a great segue because tomorrow, July 1st, we'll kick off year 4 of Rocking Around the 412. Don't worry about anything right now. Nothing's up about it, but tomorrow I will put out the tweet with a new GoFundMe link for year 4 of Rocking Around the 412. Last year, we raised over $5,000. We might as well top it this year. So we are ready to kick it off and get it rolling. Hopefully it's a lot different this year. Obviously, COVID impacted it last year. We still did a great number, and we're still able to make some Christmases. But, the previous year was awesome because we were actually able to go shopping. I know we had some trouble getting makeup and perfume and stuff, but it was still fun. So I'm excited. And Eddie's saying set the goal for 10K. 10K for 10K. Yeah.
Hey,
listen,
I mean,
every single Twitter follower donates $1.
$1. That's all it is. But yeah, it was pretty entertaining 2 years ago watching us try to buy makeup and having to call my mom and be like, okay, what is this? What are we doing? And then last year, listen, it was great. We got even bigger donations last year, but having to order everything online and then trying to put it together in person, such a headache. So hopefully it's a little bit easier this year. But
it ends up being worth it at the end. But you're right. Like I think that this year will be a lot different. And hopefully that's the case because it just meant more. I think the previous year being able to go in person and do a lot more stuff. So
yeah, it was fun to walk out of Walmart with like
Sarge disliked the video. That might be our first ever dislike. I've never gone on one of our things and actually seen a dislike. So thanks
our
for the
YouTube editor. Our YouTube editor disliked the video.
Making history. I feel like we could have an entire podcast just talking about this and how grateful we are, but we might as well give the people a little bit of Pittsburgh sports content because there's not a whole lot for us to talk about. So again, we got a couple topics to talk about, and then we're going to answer some questions. You guys have provided that for us again, so thank you guys for giving us topics for another episode. But let's start with our boy Mashtranic. By the way, one of those almost 10,000 Twitter followers that we have is Mashtranic. Unbelievable debut. I mean, how else can you put it? If not for the weather, I would have been interested to see how long he could have kept that going. 5 perfect innings in his debut from Scranton, PA, kind of just like a fairy tale story, if you will, for him to go out there and pitch that way. Again, being a Scranton kid, his entire family there was just awesome to see. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, and I know people are like, oh, why are we sending him back down and all this stuff. He's going to be back up. And it looks like they're going to go to a 6-man rotation going through the All-Star break. So that's going to be interesting to see. But real quick, I don't know if you were able to catch that game or not, but what an unbelievable performance by Mashtranic.
So I didn't catch the game, but I was able to watch some of his highlights and watch the game's highlights and just look at the box score. And I got to say, it's really impressive. The thing that we've criticized, I feel like more than anything when it comes to this Pirates team, is the starting pitching on this team. Well, okay. yeah. Throwing. I guess that equates to each other. So the starting pitching on this team been really just in one word, terrible, underwhelming, and the fact that he's able to go out there and make a performance like this it's a shame that the game got delayed and he wasn't able to finish because, I mean, like you said, I would love to see how long he could have kept it up. Imagine throwing a perfect game in your first MLB debut. That would have been sick.
I think we just hit 10K, by the way.
10K. Thank you, everybody. 10K. Now we look cool on Twitter. But yeah, I think it's really awesome for Mashtranic, and he's like, I don't know if I would consider him like one of these like prospect guys that we're like setting up for the future. However, I think for as of right now, could be one of the guys over the next like couple years that could be one of the highlights to watch as this team is trying to get back to that contending style of baseball. So it's really encouraging to see him go out there, do it. It's a great story. And I gotta say, Mashtranic. So actually, when you remember when I was doing all those card breaks,
yeah.
So whenever you would get a team in a card break, if your team did not have a either autographed or relic card in the card break, or you didn't have any cards period in the card break get pulled, you would get a pack of like this random pack of baseball cards, and some of them were kind of just like minor league prospect cards. And one of them, I actually got an autographed Mashtranic card. And at the time, this was like 4 years ago, I'm like, who the heck is this? And now, just to see his debut, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat that I have that. So that's my little connection to Mashtranic. But yeah, it was a great story to see, and it was awesome to see him pitch that way. And hopefully, like you said, he's going to be back up eventually. So he's going to get more shots. People need to stop freaking out about him being sent back down. It is what it is. But yeah, I think that he could be one of those players that we look at and we're like, okay, we're intrigued to see how he does moving forward.
Yeah, see, the thing is, he's kind of just put himself on the map. Like you mentioned, he wasn't like this high-level prospect where we were, highly touted and we're like, okay, when's this guy coming up? We're excited about this. Really just in like the last year and a half, he's kind of put himself in that conversation. Still only 23 years old. So, like, he can be part of this if he goes out and shows these types of results. I mean, he's not going to be perfect for his MLB career. But I think that the biggest thing about him is he just attacks, man. He's not afraid of his stuff. I mean, I don't want to name any names with another pitcher in the Pirates organization, but this guy just goes out there and trusts his stuff and throws strikes, pounds the zone, and he dares hitters to hit him. And honestly, I'll take that because, as I mentioned before, I would rather you trust your stuff and every once in a while give up a bomb as opposed to just trying to nibble and walk a bunch of guys because you're afraid to get hit.
Listen, when you're on a team like the Pirates, I feel like that's the mentality every pitcher has to have. Like, go out there and be like, what do you have to lose? Because if you're trying to pitch scared and pitch just like with a lack of confidence, that's not going to show results.
So this is something we didn't account for, by the way. We had hit 10K, and then people unfollowed. So they apparently want to mess with Steeler tickets and don't want anybody to get them. That's what I'm getting from this.
Well, we appreciate all of you that followed. Keep following. Follow for the giveaways. We do some cool stuff besides that as well.
Yeah. So again, not too much to talk about. Specific topics. That's why we had to get some.
Yeah, the Pirates are still bad. If that's the general topic, they're still bad.
Yeah, but when it comes to Kranick, great story. I know Noah. I believe his parents live on the same street as Mashtranic's parents.
Oh, really? That's pretty neat.
So they kind of grew up together. And I was talking to Noah. We're trying to hit a game when Max comes back up, and hopefully he's pitching at PNC. So that's kind of all we got to say about the Pirates right there. Well,
also Brian Reynolds is an all-star snub.
Unreal. He even got snubbed from being a snub.
Yeah, that image that they put out, he wasn't even on there.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
He got snubbed from the snub list.
Here's what I always hate, and this just goes outside of the MLB as well. Just any of the all-star voting where like the fans vote who is all-stars, kind of like it is for the Pro Bowl and such like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like if you want to have fan voting, I think that either coaches, teams, writers, whoever should determine who the actual all-stars are in the league, and then the fans can vote for who the starters are. Like, determine the teams before the fans. I just think because then you just end up with like stupid players in the All-Star game sometimes, and it's people that are more deserving not getting in, like a Brian Reynolds. I mean, he's been incredible. Shout out to Sarge, by the way, for telling me he sucks.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, so I guess we got to stick with the Pirates for one more thing, because Ricky just said, who do you think the Pirates should trade Frazier and Rich Rod in who for? So the thing that's funny, that's those two names, because those are the two names that we said are 100% going to be traded. Like in our minds, you said Frazier, I said Rich Rod. That's who we definitely felt like were going to be traded. What I love about this is neither one of those guys have to be traded. Neither one is a free agent at the end of the season. The Pirates kind of hold all the cards here, and I don't know about you. I think we're on the same page of this. We definitely trust Ben Cherington to get the best return for these guys possible. There's absolutely no reason that he has to trade these guys, but I think a good enough deal is going to come along. I think that you look like, and I think it's going to be separate deals, by the way. I don't necessarily think Ricky was suggesting in the same trade, but I think, Rich Rod makes a ton of sense for Toronto, and that was thrown out there today. Every team that's in contention is looking for bullpen arms. So the suitors are going to be, through the roof for a guy like Rich Rod. Now, when it comes to Frazier, I think it's a little interesting because where do they see Frazier? Is he going to play second base? If a team is looking more for a bat but already has a second baseman, do they trust him enough to play like a corner outfield spot? That's where it's going to be interesting. And that's why I think that, there's definitely suitors. I think you look at teams like the Yankees who have been thrown out there, the White Sox after losing Nick Madrigal, and, Cleveland I know has been rumored as well. There's definitely some teams there that make sense for him. But I think that it's a little bit more narrow because everybody needs a bullpen arm where not everybody needs an Adam Frazier.
Right. And I think to answer the question as well, yes, those are the two should be traded. But like you said, Ben Cherington, he's not Neil Huntington. He's not going to trade guys just to trade guys. He's not going to make those bad deals. I mean, he is actively trying to rebuild this team. So I think he is willing to wait on a trade if one is not there. If the proper return is not there, he's not just going to pull the gun on what he can get. And Ricky, you're asking who for? I can't really say who for specifically because it's not like we're trading for big league names. Who for? We're trading for prospects. We're trading for prospects that are going to be ready within the 2023 to 2025 window. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, and I know, we did on the local media and stuff for saying this all the time, but I will say it would be very nice if via one of these trades, we get a legit catching prospect. I know that there's some hope in the catcher that we got in the Yankees deal, but he's still very far down the line. If we can get a catcher with a 2023, 2024 timeline somewhere around there or earlier, then, I'll be very happy with that. I know that's why with the Blue Jays, I'm so mad. Montero, maybe. I was just looking at their prospect list, and they have a prospect who sits as their number 6. They got him as an international free agent signing in 2019, and he's kind of risen up the ranks. One of their very few international signings that have worked out.
Also, Ricky said maybe catching prospects, so
yeah,
he basically said
if you're looking for prospects by name, there's some other podcasts I can recommend, but that's not really our area of expertise per se.
Listen,
we don't pay a whole lot of attention to other teams' minor league systems.
Yeah. I will say we do a better job than a lot of the media in this town for being able to name Pirates on the current roster and a lot of their prospects. But when you're talking about other teams, yeah, that's whenever I struggle to name other MLB players on other teams. When you get into their prospects, that's where it's a big question mark for me.
So people were talking about Alejandro Kirk. The one that I was talking about was Gabriel Moreno, not Montero. Moreno. He's currently in Double-A, 21 years old. Timeline looks around 2022, so that's kind of perfect.
Either way, we're just looking for prospects. That's literally it. We're not looking for MLB players.
And I know that there was a question that we got via Twitter that was similar to that, talking about prospects potentially in trades. Again, I can direct you to some other podcasts if you want to know more about other teams' prospect. But there was something I actually just put out. Was it Bucks Dugout maybe that did that? Shout out to those guys. I think it was them where they were having a conversation about potential packages. It was actually regarding a Brian Reynolds trade that they said wasn't going to happen, but just for parity, they decided to discuss it. But those guys, they would be the ones that I would go to if I were trying to learn more about potential suitors.
And just shout out to any podcast in general that talks about mainly the Pirates, only the Pirates.
We were just having a discussion about this right before today's show was, how do people put together an entire show year round, by the way, this is in season. We're struggling with this, centering around just the Pittsburgh Pirates. So more so wondering what position. Yeah. Well, let's start there. With a legit catching prospect would definitely be nice. Maybe a power bat at one of the corner spots or something as well.
Yeah.
Okay, but moving along, the only other topic that I had on here for us to talk about, other than just answering the questions that we got, kind of took us by, I would say, a little bit of a surprise. I don't know that I was sitting there thinking David DeCastro is going to be released. Now, had he just straight up retired that day, that would have been a little less surprising, and that still may end up being what the conclusion of all this is. But when David DeCastro got released, I was like, man, really? Like, that's the way it had to go down? Like, if he's not going to play again, why couldn't he just retire? And it not have to look so bad with him being released with a non-football injury, and now potentially there's going to be a grievance there, and it's not going to look good. It's just a bad situation. So I was kind of hoping, listen, if he's not going to play football again, if he has to get this third ankle surgery with, the bone spurs that he has, and that's going to happen, which he confirmed, just retire, hang him up and go out on a good note.
Well, good note. Losing to Cleveland at home, that's not the best.
Yeah, I meant, the relationship. With
no, yeah. I know what you meant. I thought it was super weird. When I got the update on my phone that he had been released by the Steelers, I was like, yeah, I definitely did not have this on my bingo card for this Steelers offseason. I think you and I both were just basically penciling in David DeCastro and weren't even really thinking about someone else potentially playing that right guard position because we just figured he would be on the team. So I would say it's a shock, but at the same time, when you look at the scenario and like the actual context of everything, like I understand why the Steelers did what they did, and I guess you could have expected it. It makes sense. And with the signing that they had with Trey Turner, they actually saved money on the deal. So I guess it's a good thing for the Steelers.
And that's why Eddie said it didn't have something to do with saving cap space money. But that's what I'm saying about the grievance thing. So if he files a grievance because of them listing it as a non-football injury, the reason for the release, and he fights that, he can still get his full 2020 salary, and then it made no difference. So, yeah. That's why I was hoping to play it a little bit differently. He's from the Seattle area. If he plays, do you see him at Seattle? I don't see it happening, but I mean, I guess if there's somewhere, why not? Like, it's just so out of the realm of possibility in my mind. It's like you could have said whatever team, and I would have said sure, because I just don't see any of them happening. But that's as good of a reason for anybody else that's not the Steelers.
Kraken won't take an injured player. Yeah, I just he's one of those players to me that could he play for another team? Potentially. I just don't really think he would want to. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I just think after the career he's had with the Steelers, this very successful career, mind you, I just don't see him wanting to join another organization out of the blue, basically. Yeah. So I just don't see it.
Very successful, but by the way, should be noted, not a Hall of Famer. Sorry, David. I know that I saw this thrown around. I think like probably 4 All-Pros is really like that magic number where if you have that, then you can kind of have a conversation. DeCastro was a 2-time All-Pro. So I don't see it happening, but very good player. He's 31 years old. So had he had another couple of good years and maybe this injury didn't slow him down and prevent him finishing out the career that he wanted to have, then maybe he could have had a case by the time that his career ended. But definitely with it ending now, I don't think that he has much of a legitimate case for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
look how long it took Alan Faneca to get it. Like,
that's true. And he's the best guard in Steelers history.
Yeah. Moving on to his replacement. So that same day, we didn't have to wait very long to figure out, okay, so now what's happening at guard. Trey Turner signed to, and we kind of just talked about this with Donnie on All Steelers Talk, so be sure to subscribe to that on YouTube and watch that episode. Trey Turner comes in, which, he has his own question marks coming into the season, going through a knee injury that hampered him to start the season and then injuring his groin once he came back. But he has some pretty solid pedigree of his own. 5-time Pro Bowler before that awful 2020 season in LA. Was a very good player in Carolina as a guard. So if we get that player, this is going to look like a steal. As you mentioned, going from DeCastro at $8+ million to Trey Turner making $3 million, 1.5 base salary plus the signing bonus. If we get equal play from him as opposed to David DeCastro, obviously it's a huge win. If this guy's healthy, you gotta love this signing.
Yeah, I think this has potential to be, maybe even a little bit of an upgrade over David DeCastro if Trey Turner could be healthy. I know you think that maybe last year was just because of his injuries, like that was the big big thing hampering him. I think you can say the same thing for David DeCastro. I don't think he was really playing healthy all of last year. So it's similar scenarios. But yeah, when you look at him signing for only $3 million, I think that is a big W for the Steelers, especially when it comes to that cap scenario, because we know when it comes to the Steelers, especially going into this year, they had all the cap issues in the world. So it leaves room for them to be able to make some more moves if they feel the need to.
100%. I think that, the thing you mentioned, like it could be an upgrade. If it's going to be the same David DeCastro and based off him needing a third ankle surgery, then yeah, it should be. The problem is with how many question marks we have on that offensive line, even though this is a low risk signing, you can't really afford to have it not pay off. Like normally when you sign a guy 1 year, $3 million, if it doesn't work out, okay, whatever. This is a signing that they need to hit because of the state of the rest of that offensive line. You mentioned how much cap room they still have left over. Ken in the comments wants to know cap room for Justin Houston now. I would absolutely love that. I talked with Derek and Nick at length about that last week when you were on vacation, which, by the way, we didn't even mention that, but welcome back. Bringing in a guy like Justin Houston, I would love that. The problem that I see with that idea is I still think he's a pretty high-level player. Is he okay with being a rotational piece, even at this point in his career, knowing that he could still be a focal point of a defense? Is he okay with rotating in as like just a situational pass rusher? Because I see that more being a guy like Melvin Ingram, no longer with the Chargers, that would potentially fill that role. I would love Justin Houston as the third, because if they're adding one position, that's where my money's on it being right now, is on edge. Mike Tomlin normally isn't very outspoken about it. They asked him about the edge depth. He said there is none. So I think that they're going to add somebody there. I'm at the point where I look at the roster as is, and I'm like, give me somebody on the edge and give me a defensive back, Malik Hooker, and I will be completely fine with the way that this roster is set up going into 2021.
Yeah, I got to agree with you with Justin Houston. I think if the Steelers did not have a guy like Alex Highsmith, who is a second year, basically he's the heir to the starting job of Bud Dupree, I think that it could be different if they did not have that guy there. But the fact that they have Alex Highsmith, who is supposed to be the starting outside linebacker for this team, I think that you're right. Justin Houston, I don't really see him being as like an alternating guy, or like the third outside linebacker. I think he would be second fiddle to TJ Watt if he would to come here. But since we have Alex Highsmith, I just don't think it makes a ton of sense.
And here's the other thing about that is, Roche, sixth round pick, but I think both think pretty highly of him, thought he should have went higher than the sixth round. And Cassius Marsh, both those guys are going to play special teams probably, but normally your third edge guy is a guy that you rely on playing a decent amount of special teams. Whether that's Justin Houston or Melvin Ingram, do we see that happening? Because that would be kind of uncharacteristic for that player to not. But because we're in this position where it's probably going to be a veteran, or at least hopefully, that has been so productive throughout their career, whether it is a Melvin Ingram or a Justin Houston, I don't see that third edge guy necessarily playing special teams snaps like we would normally see in the past. Like, look at Alex last year. Played a ton of special teams until he became the guy.
Maybe he still will. Who knows? We don't know what that roster is going to look like at that position.
Yeah, I don't know. But so that, and then I guess we can touch on this real quick before we move on. The question, J Miles 61 said, don't we need depth on O-line? So if you ask me, absolutely. But if you look at the roster, do we see them signing anybody else? Like, all signs point to them feeling comfortable with what they have. I mean, they go out and sign Joe Haig to a 2-year deal for whatever reason. I mean, they bring BJ Finney back. Who's the other? Coward, who they brought in from Chicago. Like, with as many moves that they've made on the offensive line, I get the sense that they're comfortable there. But for me personally, I'm not. But that's also something that at this point of free agency isn't going to be addressed. I think if they were to do anything with the O-line, it would have been at the draft, and we obviously saw how that went. So
I think
the why am I forgetting his name right now?
DJ Moore Jr.
Yeah.
I think the big thing when it comes to the O-line and the confidence in the O-line and the depth there is that we don't really have any confidence in the starters yet. They're replacing 4 out of 5 starters. So I just think that when we solidify how the offensive line as a starters goes, then maybe we could feel out the depth more. But I think just the fact that we have no idea what this offensive line is going to perform like, that just makes fans even more wary about the depth of this offensive line. Because it's like, okay, if these guys don't work out, what's going to happen behind them? Because we're not even confident in our starters as of right now.
That's the thing, is we have a bunch of starters that we'd feel okay if they were the backups. But it's like, because they're starters right now, it's a lot of hope. And I do think that the offensive line, like, the ceiling is high for a lot of these guys, but they're all new to this. Like you have a bunch of
you have Kevin Dotson is the only one that I would say is like you and I are confident in, like, okay, that's our left guard and he's good at his position. But you got Chooks moving over to left tackle. We don't know how he's going to be. Zach Banner's coming off of the knee injury, and we don't know how he's going to perform after that. We have Trey Turner, who's projected starting right guard. He's new to the system and coming off of a year of injuries. And then center, I mean, maybe Kendrick Green, maybe
hopefully.
BJ Finney. Hopefully Kendrick Green, maybe BJ Finney. Hopefully, for the heck, not JC Hassenauer. I don't know who's gonna be, but it's just a lot of players. We're like, I don't know how I feel about it.
The thing is, I do think that Kendrick Green opens up the season as the starting center. I don't think that they pick him in that spot with the other centers that were available if they felt like he wasn't going to be the day one starter. Even though he only had 4 starts at center, I think their thinking was this guy translates perfectly to the scheme that we're going to run. So they were comfortable enough taking him despite the lack of starts at the position. Because Noah told us that J.C. Hassenauer was getting a ton of looks with the starting unit at minicamp, and that was very worrisome to us. However, I don't think that they pulled the trigger at pick 87 with some of the other centers that were left on Kendrick Green unless they felt like he was going to be the day one starter. Because we talked about it at length. They needed, at minimum, 3 starters to come from this rookie class immediately.
Yeah. And like you said, the centers that were there, whenever 55 came around and Creed Humphrey was there, I was like, okay, that's got to be the pick. Pat Freiermuth. Then Quinn Minus is still there at 87. Okay, Kendrick Green. Which, I mean, Kendrick Green, I didn't hate the pick, but it was more just like, I actually didn't really hate either pick. It was more question marks. So you're right. I think that they had to get 3 starters. They wouldn't have taken him if he wasn't going to be a starter. But at the same time, even if he is a starter, we don't know how he's going to stack up early on with the Steelers. Like, it's just big. What was the word that Donnie used last show? Unproven. Yeah. A lot of unprovenness on this offensive line.
Yeah. And, so we're questioning the picks on draft night, but then afterwards, once they're done, we see, Adrian Clem as the offensive line coach, kind of moving towards more of a zone blocking scheme. Then all of a sudden the Kendrick Green pick makes sense. You think about Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator, how much 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets will we see? Okay, Pat Freiermuth makes sense. So really, it's just we needed that hindsight to be able to justify those picks, really, that we weren't able to see on draft night. And it's tough when you see, arguably the best center and Creed Humphrey still there with a team needing a center, obviously losing Marquise Pouncey, and just, watch him go to take a tight end. But then in the 3rd round when they take Kendrick Green, we're like, okay, like this guy played 4 games at center. Like, what is this about? But it all kind of comes full circle. And even though that it's definitely still a question mark, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable right now as we sit here talking about it than I was on draft night.
Oh, same here. The draft night, it was just more confusion than anything. Now I've been able to talk myself and understand what the Steelers process and thought process was. So hopefully these guys will be able to show out and play well. Yeah.
And they're also, even though, we're going in on this year, they also do have one eye towards the future with a lot of these picks as well. Because, again, this offensive line, how good are they going to be in year 1? And Ben's last year, kind of a question mark. But at least for, the next few years, that interior should definitely be really good. And we'll see about the tackles. I think that really, if you're going to pick apart the offensive line even more, dissect it even more, I would say that the bigger question is at tackles than at the interior.
Hey, at least we know one thing after last year. We know Ben can get the ball out quick if he needs to.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to see much of the 2020 version of the Steelers in 2021, but for sure. Okay, so let's go to Twitter now and answer some questions. Again, we can't thank you guys enough for giving us something to talk about in these tough times when it comes to topics. I believe Eddie's in here, so we might as well answer Eddie's question that really isn't one to start this off. If Tyler is incapable of lying and yet tells Zach that he told a lie, Is he lying or is he telling the truth?
Both. It's a paradox. It's like an impossible question because you're lying. You're lying by saying that I told a lie, but but I can't lie, so I'm telling the truth, but I'm lying. I just confused everybody that listened to me talk. Listen, it's impossible, Eddie. I hate that you even said that. But yeah, that's my answer. It's just a paradox. It's impossible to answer. It's both.
Yeah, I bet Eddie has his poker face on right now while he was asking that as well.
Where did the poker thing come from? Were you playing poker with him or what?
I didn't end up going to play poker with him. I'm going to. I have to. He wants to throw me into the fire with one of his family poker nights. But, the bar that his family owns that we're talking about, we're going to have the event there on the 21st. Potentially, we'll see how things play out for our get-together in November before the Steelers-Bears game, but that's something down the line. So Eddie went there on Saturday and was playing poker. He was telling me that they have a family poker game. I was supposed to go with him that night. I decided to hold off so you and I could both go and check this place out at some point in the near future. But yeah, I guess his family has poker nights there at his family's bar. And I told him that, little unknown thing about Smitty, your boy does not know how to play poker. So that's why I said he was trying to throw me to the fire by including me in these family, very competitive, it sounds like, family poker games with me not knowing how to play poker.
Dude, I can't blame you because I the only card game I know how to play is blackjack, and besides that, no idea.
Oh, I love me some blackjack.
Yeah, I love blackjack, but poker, I have no clue.
I guess Texas Hold'em is relatively easy to pick up, so that's where we're going to start.
Like whenever I watch poker, I'm like, how do I know based off of my hand what the cards that are being flipped over, how do they relate? Like I don't know what's good and what's bad.
I can tell. I'll tell you in a couple weeks.
Okay. Also, Jay Miles, we have not talked about anything Penguins yet, and we didn't really have anything on the list. So if you have any questions about Penguins, feel free to ask. We're answering it right now.
Yeah, a Smitty-sized duck could answer that. I agree. I'm assuming this was Tiffany. Tiffany Allen says, get me more Kevin Young and Matt Capps and less of this. Wait, that's not a question. This has been actually a very hot debate on Pirates Twitter is, amongst the commentary team. People want to see more of Kevin Young and Matt Capps and less of, the Bob Walks or Michael McHenry's or whoever it might be. I don't know where you're at with this, man. To be honest with you, I don't know how I feel about and maybe it's just a Pirates thing because of the former players that we have doing it. I haven't really enjoyed any of the former players that end up stepping into the commentary booth.
I just don't think they're that great at it. I mean, not that we're great at what we do either, but I feel like I just have not really been entertained at all. Like I don't get drawn to them. Like there's some announcers that like they draw you into the game with their words, their voice, and everything. I just don't feel that way with any of the announcers. I mean, really, the only one that I really like. I mean, Greg Brown, he's got so many iconic calls, but like the only one that I truly like listening to, when I want to listen to Pirate games, is Joe Block. I just like his voice. I like the way he calls games. But besides that, the Pirates, I just don't really care for any of their announcers.
I used to like Tim Neverett a lot, and ironically enough. Block's the one that came in when Neverett left, but I would agree with you. I think the Block is my favorite out of the ones that are left, and I think that a big part of it for me is that these guys just seem to just push back, like especially Brown, Block, or I'm not sorry, not Block, Walk and Wayner. They just like push back against like the new school style of baseball, and it's just like I don't want to hear it.
It's probably just a generational thing. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure the older crowd, those are their favorite commentators.
And I'm sure, like, as time moves along, these guys are tired. I'm sure there will be people brought in that are more into the analytical crowd that will announce games towards that type of audience. But yeah, I understand that for the time being, I don't really see it changing. But it is what it is. I mean, a couple of the guys, like, I think they can talk baseball. I just don't think they're that great at it. Like, I don't think they're great at being on the air, and just, if you let them talk for too long, it's not that great.
Yeah, we're gonna end up upsetting people with this, so we should just stop there. The next question comes from Jeff. He said, "How will I decide when to hold them, when I should fold them, and when I should walk away?" I'm gonna tell you that you need to know when to run.
Count your money. Don't count your money when you're sitting at the table. You can count it when the dealing's done.
See, I knew that some people were going to just completely not do what I asked.
What does the show turn into? That's what we're doing right now.
Another question that we got was, who did you vote for in the presidential election? I mean, so I want to save this one question for last, so I'll skip that and go to the next one. Have you paid attention at all, literally at all, to the U.S. Olympic swim team?
Me personally,
have you paid any attention really to the Olympic trials at all?
Not particularly. I've seen some highlights of stuff, but I haven't like known anything.
Okay, because our boy Steel City Hackett, shout out to Sean, said thoughts on the U.S. Olympic swim team.
I know who Katie Ledecky is. She's a great swimmer. I know that a 15-year-old girl qualified for the swim team. I'm pretty sure that was pretty sure that was the American team.
Okay.
And that's really about all I know. So that's it. That's my thoughts. Katie Ledecky.
Okay, we can wrap up on the U.S. Olympic swim team talk with that. Favorite albums growing up. This comes from Nick Horwath. He is with the Iceberg podcast. A shout out to him.
My favorite albums growing up were American Idiot by Green Day.
Oh, okay. Probably in mine as well.
Take Off Your Pants and Jacket by Blink-182.
Okay.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of like punk rock stuff. Homesick by A Day to Remember. And I would say Man on the Moon by Kid Cudi and Graduation by Kanye West. Those are just like some of my.
I love Graduation too.
Yeah, a little bit of everything there.
What can I really add to this, man?
I don't know, your own music.
Can I add the Now That's What I Call as albums?
All right, I'm leaving.
I don't know, man. Like, what did I?
Oh, another one of mine. What's that album called? Fifth Gear by Brad Paisley.
Really?
Yeah. Brad Paisley is one of my favorite. I mean, he is my favorite country artist. I've seen him in concert before, but
why does that surprise me?
Why does that surprise you? I don't know.
Yeah.
I grew up on country.
Well, see, I knew that you like country music and everything, along with other genres. I mean, you listen to pretty much anything, I feel like, but the Brad Paisley specifically part is what surprises me.
Yeah, I don't know. Brad Paisley is my favorite country artist.
Okay. I'm still trying to think of what I can add to this, man.
Didn't you listen to music?
Not really. So, yeah, I listen to music, but like specifically albums, I'm not sure that I can name that many.
Oh. Well, I only had those albums on the top of my head because those are albums I specifically remember listening to like the entire thing.
Why don't you guys need to put some albums for us in the comments here? Especially J-Mal said you guys are so young. That's true. So yeah, you could probably I mean, I don't know how old you are, but
I mean, I'm 26. We're both 26, so I don't know what you expected. Like when we were growing up in like the 2000s. Like that's when we were.
No one says Aaron Carter's, you're lying.
I can't even name Aaron Carter's album. Is it just called Aaron Carter? Probably. That's probably his first album. But yeah, the only reason I remember some of those albums is just because I listened to them all the time.
Self-titled, 1998.
See, I knew it because anybody who like around that area, around that era, I feel like their first album, especially if they're like a pop artist, was just their name. Paisley stinks. So do you, bud.
Okay. Why do you think NFL media is so ready and rooting for the Steelers to not be good? Do they know who is on our team? Also, we will have the most cap space, so won't be anytime soon.
I think you touched on this a little
is
bit.
Is a good one too.
I think you touched on this a little bit. How like they're kind of like making the Steelers underdogs a little bit, but I also think, and maybe this is just me being a biased Steelers fan, but like I think if you talk bad about a franchise like the Steelers, it will get clicks on anything.
Same with the Cowboys.
Yeah, there's certain franchises where if you say certain things about them, especially if you're saying that they're going to be bad, their fans are going to click on it, and a lot of fans are going to click on it. It's not just those Steelers fans. So, I mean, maybe there's people that do it for that reason, but there's probably also a lot of people that just genuinely think that. I mean, like we said, like if you look at the Browns roster, it's hard to argue that on paper the Browns aren't a better football team. And I said, like, I think the Steelers could easily finish third as they could as first in the division. So I think that it's I don't know if there's a huge media bias against the Steelers, more so than a lot of it might just be honest opinions on the team. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to touch on what you said first, I definitely think that they're one of those teams where you always know engagement's going to be high. And that's kind of what this has turned into in the world of social media, where you put out opinions. Again, they don't have to be genuine, and fire them out there. Engagement will be through the roof if it's on a team like the Steelers, Cowboys, to switch sports. You know, it could be about the Yankees, any of these bigger market or just huge
Toronto Maple
franchises. Maple Leafs. Yeah. I mean, so that is, I think, the first part of it. The second part of it is I don't think that we need to kid ourselves here. There's definitely a lot of question marks when it comes to the Steelers in 2021. Were they as good as that 11-0 said to start last season? Probably not, but they're not. They're also not as bad as the way that they ended the season, in my opinion.
The 1-5 or 1-6, including the playoff game.
Yeah. So I think that this 2021 team is somewhere in the middle there. They're still going to be a competitive team. I still have them as a playoff team. Like you said, I think that the Browns are the better team on paper. This game's not played on paper, though, so we'll see how that plays out. And, man, like, I think a bigger part of it, if I had to break it down and say, I think that the biggest part of it is the franchise quarterback isn't a very likable guy. He absolutely wants nothing. He doesn't talk to the media. He makes himself an easy target at this point in his career. And when you add that into the fact that if you mention the Steelers' name, you're getting a ton of engagement, the Steelers are a pretty easy team to hate.
And you also add it,
in the national media.
If you want to talk about the players themselves, a lot of people don't really care for Juju.
Yeah.
So they don't like the whole TikTok
to me, though,
era.
Is that really – see, and again, I think that national media people might play off of that, but I don't think that there's many people in the national media that actually don't like Juju. I think that that's an older generation thing that actually don't like him. But if, you know, the national media or these people on Twitter – can get a ton of engagement off of making jokes about it, they're going to do so.
Yeah, exactly. Like we said, there's a lot of things in when it comes to either the media in Pittsburgh or national media. You don't really know how genuine it is. Anything is just for engagement.
Yeah, I just think at this point they've become an easy target. You know, so that, like Stubb said, it's cool to hate on the Steelers these days. It's become a popular thing in the national media.
Like you when you were a kid.
Yeah, it's come full circle. Now the national media is like me as a kid. To answer the second part of this, also we will have the most cap space. So the thing with that is hopefully that actually changes soon with the TJ Watt extension. And also Minka Fitzpatrick extension. I would love to see both those get done, but definitely the Watt one first. We can worry about Minka down the line next season or something like that. The cap thing, to me, that's great, but a lot of it is going to be taken up by players that are either currently on the roster or, you know, we're going to need to re-sign because they're free agents. Like that cap space is going to look nothing like what it looks like now. And I'm not talking about this year's cap space. I'm talking about, you know, 2022 and beyond. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think that that's kind of a moot point. But, you know, I know that people look at that and they're like, okay, we have the money to go out and sign a quarterback. Who you going out and sign?
And let's be
like
real.
The one option would have been if the Cowboys didn't sign Dak. that I would have been okay with paying.
Right. And let's be real. Would you rather go out and sign a quarterback, overpay for a quarterback that might not even be that great? Or would you rather try to draft one? I would take my chances in the draft.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm with you. And again, I think that, it's a conversation that I had with Derek and Nick. It's like, is Mason Rudolph going to be the guy for a year or two after Ben? Yeah, probably. And he'll either somehow, and we don't necessarily see it happening, become the guy, or he's bad enough where it puts you in a better position to draft the next franchise guy. And you take that lottery ticket and hope to hit on that guy. It's not easy. Franchise quarterbacks do not grow on trees.
Yeah, I just don't. I think the same way for free agents that you would sign as well. How often are you going to get a guy in free agency that is going to be your franchise quarterback? I think that's almost just as rare as being able to draft one.
Yeah. I lost the questions here because I wanted to retweet some people that were congratulating us, so I have to pull that back up. So,
Haskins, we kind of touched on that. We both kind of agreed that we think that Mason will get the first crack at being the guy after Ben. I think Haskins has just as good a shot as anybody, but we don't. At least I don't think that he is going to be the guy unless there's a lot of strides moving forward. Like, I don't think anybody on this roster after Ben is going to be the franchise quarterback.
Yeah, as of right now, there's no reason to believe that Haskins is going to be the guy. I mean, he could go out and prove us wrong, and that's what we hope happens. But as we sit here today, I see no reason to think that that's going to be the case. I think that people have this idea, like just this false idea of what Haskins is. And, I think that we're going to get a good indication of how this offense will work with Ben as to if it's going to be able to work with a non-mobile quarterback. Because if that's the case, I think it opens up a whole different, set of circumstances where a guy like Haskins or Rudolph could succeed. But let's be honest about it right now. Like, from everybody that we've talked to, like, Dobbs and Haskins are more in a competition for QB3 than it is Rudolph and Haskins for QB2.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't. Yeah. If he makes the roster, the signing's a win. Like, they're paying him nothing. So if he goes out there and wins the QB3 job, or say they carry 4 quarterbacks, but we don't see it happening, then it's a win for the Steelers. Mike says, when will Kendrick Green be on the show? Whenever he wants. We're waiting. Malkin's last year, question mark. So no. This is all right, I like the answer. I was just saying this is a completely different question than saying, like, should they trade him or look to move him in some fashion. But now that he's going to have this surgery that's, not going to happen anyway, but it was never going to happen. This is a different question. You immediately said no. So I want to get your thoughts on that before I answer this, because that was a pretty adamant no.
Well, this is also assuming that the surgery's fine, he recovers fine. I think that Malkin is still a part of this team for the foreseeable future, at least for the next few years. I think that after this year, or even during this year, I mean, we knew like the Penguins, a lot of the time they didn't do a lot of signings during the season, but I think that Malkin would definitely be an exception to that. And along with Chris Letang, I think both of those guys are going to be parts of the future of this team, at least for the next couple of years, or the next 2 to 3 years. So yes, I do think that they are going to be on this team. I just don't see any replacements in the prospect pool that are going to be able to replace guys like that. Like, who are you going to replace them with? Are you going to have to make trades to like trade for a 2C? I mean, after Crosby, if you get rid of Malkin, do you really want a guy like Jared McCann to be your second line center? Because I mean, realistically, I guess it could be Jeff Carter, but like that's only for next year.
For a year, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's an easy answer for me. Yes, there's no doubt in my mind that Malkin is going to be on the team past this next year.
Yeah, I think he'll sign another short-term contract extension, hopefully at a lower cap number. You've already said in the past that you think it has to be at a lower cap number for it to work. Yeah, I don't see him playing elsewhere. I'll say that right now. Like, I don't see him playing anywhere else besides Pittsburgh in the NHL. Like, now, would he go play in the KHL potentially for the last few years of his hockey playing career? The only thing I would say, sure, like if he didn't have a family. I think when his son Nikita is like old enough, like you really want to uproot him from this to go back and play hockey in Russia. Like I don't know that I see that happening at this point. So if he were still like a single man, sure. But because he's now had a family and has planted those roots, like I think he's staying in Pittsburgh.
I also think his hockey days aren't over. I feel like a lot of people are looking at Malkin and they're talking like he is just like a skeleton of himself. I don't think that's the case. We saw what he was able to do in the games he came back in this playoff series with torn MCL. Yeah. So the fact that he was able to come back and do that, I think that Malkin still has some decent hockey left in him. And I think that if they gave him like in my opinion, I would give him like 3-year deal. I think that both sides would be comfortable with that. And that deal would expire when he's about 37 or 38 years old, I think. And then at that point, you reevaluate. But I think moving forward, yes, he is for sure going to be on the Penguins past this year. It's not going to be his last season with the Pens.
In the comments, I agree. What about Rust?
Rust is a bigger question mark, not because they wouldn't sign him. It's are they going to trade him? I feel like that's the bigger question. I think the question is yes, they would sign him. However, are they going to trade him before they could sign him? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question either.
If there's one player on the team right now that I could see being traded, it's probably him. He's on just a 1-year deal at this point, 29 years old, very affordable. If they're going to make a hockey trade and send out an asset and look to bring back an asset, it's going to be in the form of Brian Rust. Hopefully it doesn't happen. I mean, the fact that he's been on the show aside, I want Brian Rust to remain a Pittsburgh Penguin. I say that without looking at the contract, though.
Yeah,
I do think that they need to be weary of just handing the bag to a guy that's about to turn 30 years old.
Which I also think that is Ron Hextall, I think, will be more wary than Jim Rutherford would have been when it comes to things like that. And like we've said multiple times since he's taken the reins of this team, he has no ties to these guys. So he has no connection to want to give him a bigger contract than he deserves. Not to say Russ isn't deserving, but he is a guy that he is going to be 30 years old. But at the same time, his hockey has gotten better and better each year. So as he's gotten older, he's gotten better. Could that trend continue? Maybe so, but we really don't know. At a certain point, it's going to fizzle out, and I feel like it's going to digress. But at what point is that going to happen? Is that going to be in the next year or two, or is that going to be 4 or 5 years from now? Who knows? But when it comes to Rust, I think, yes, they would sign him. But the only problem is, will he be on the team via trade? That's the bigger question.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I saved this question from Sarge for last because I liked it the most out of no disrespect to any of the other questions, but this was just, I thought, unique. We've never had really a question asked like this to us. So if you had to cover one team from each major sport, excluding the Pittsburgh teams, which team from each sport would you choose? So for me, I'm thinking about like an entertainment value, like the most exciting players, not necessarily the best players.
Mm-hmm.
And, these teams are also very good, but present day, I would be looking at it as who's the most exciting teams, not necessarily the best right now, if I were going to cover other teams. So I'll start because obviously I already have my answers in mind thinking about this.
Okay.
For baseball, it's the Padres. Slight choice over the Braves because Acuna to me is like my favorite player that's not a Pirate. But the Padres as a whole, I think, are more exciting. With Tatis, with Machado, with everything that's going on there. Obviously, playing in what's right now just an insane division because the Giants are a lot better than people thought they were going to be. So you have them, obviously the Padres as well, and then the Dodgers, coming off their World Series win and are still that good again this year. So for baseball, it's the Padres for me. For hockey, Edmonton, McDavid, Draisaitl. I think there's a couple other options that I could go with. That's who I went with in a slight I won't even say because the other team might be yours. So I won't say what my other option was going to be there. But I think that'd be fun. Obviously, playing in Canada as well. That'd be fun to cover up there. And then for the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. I feel like the Chiefs are building something of a dynasty there. They're always going to be in the mix for as long as they have Patrick Mahomes under center. So it's the Chiefs for me in the NFL.
All right. So I will get my NFL team out of the way just because it's the same one. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, like I said, like you said, they're building a dynasty. They could be the Patriots of the future, with how good they potentially could
What
be.
everybody thought the Colts were going to be with luck.
Exactly, before he retired. So yeah, that's mine for the NFL. And then for hockey, I feel like I'm going to pick the team that you didn't pick in Colorado.
Yep.
I mean, love Nathan McKinnon, love Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, Landeskog. There's so many good players on that team, and I feel like I would pick Edmonton if I'm just focused on McDavid and Draisaitl. However, if I'm picked on an overall team, I think like that Colorado is the most entertaining team to watch overall. And from an analytics standpoint, if you're into the analytics side of the game, Colorado is a great team to want to cover. So, and then for baseball, listen, I know Sarge is going to hate me because for the longest time, my other MLB team was the Yankees. Yes, I will admit that. When I was a little kid, the Yankees were like my favorite team with the Pirates. My gamer tag is TWeeks347. The 3s for Babe Ruth, the 4s for Lou Gehrig, and the 7s for Mickey Mantle. However, I'm not picking the Yankees, and I'm picking the Angels only because I get to cover Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. And not as exciting as the Padres, I feel like, especially not as good as a team as the Padres. But I feel like just those two players in particular, it's kind of like you picking Edmonton for hockey. Like I wanted to focus on those two players. Arguably, the best player in the world could be the best player of all time. And Shohei Ohtani, I mean, the run that he's been on this year, it's been incredible. So that would be my baseball team.
Yeah, you're not going to get an argument from me on the Avalanche were the other team that I considered. In baseball, for some reason, never even thought about the Angels. I guess that goes to speak about the MLB's ability to market those guys despite having two of the best players in baseball. I mean, they even got Rendon there too. So
now, just for fun, we don't talk about the NBA on this show. If you had to follow an NBA team, who would it be? Because I have mine in mind, and mine would be the Mavericks, just because I love Luka. And Luka and I share the same birthday. Now, for the foreseeable future, he's on the Mavericks. I don't know if he's going to be there forever, but while Luka's on the Mavericks, I would cover them.
And Cuban. By the way, shout out to his brother, Brian Cuban, who just followed us on Twitter. For the NBA, who would it be? I'm going to say not because they're good. They were decent this year, fizzled out in the playoffs, and they historically, at least in our lifetime, haven't been good. But there's always something to talk about with them. I think they'd be fun to cover. There'd be a lot of hot takes spewing. The New York Knicks.
That's literally the team I thought you were going to take. That's a good one. There's always something to talk about with the Knicks, whether it's surprising how bad they are, anything. I mean, look at Stephen A. He's been a fan of the Knicks forever, and he's one of the most entertaining people when it comes to talking about them. So I can't blame you for that. I think my other one would be the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell's my favorite player, and I think like
there's some talk about him not staying there long term, though.
Yeah, I might have to.
That's like for me, like with Dame. Like I don't know if he's just staying in Portland, but
if he left, would he still be your favorite player?
Oh yeah. I don't really care about Portland. I just like Dame.
Like, would you think less of him if he went to the Lakers?
No, because like I feel like he's a player going from like he's tried everything in Portland. It's not like he just failed once and then he's jumping ship.
Are you
like
taking
he's
a
literally
shot?
tried to do everything. He's tried to do everything for Portland, and like even like CJ McCollum has been an all-star multiple times. He's a very good player, but this year atrocious in the playoffs. Like when it looks like Portland might actually have a shot because Dame's playing out of his mind. McCollum has his worst possible series. So he's tried everything for Portland. He's given them everything. So no, I wouldn't have a problem if he went somewhere and actually tried to be, a smaller cog.
I would want him to win a ring. I just don't want it to be with the Lakers.
Nah. Absolutely not. Okay, so obviously to finish off every episode now, we're doing the Three Rivers Rapid Responses segment. I got my questions ready. Actually, only one of these is going to directly relate to Pittsburgh sports.
Okay.
So I will ask that one first. Will the Steelers retire number 7?
Yes.
Officially retire, not this
Yes.
unofficial. Okay.
No, like how Mean Joe Green is like the only player that. Yes, they will.
Okay. Pick one vacation spot. It's the only vacation spot you can ever go to again, but you get to go there every single year.
Okay. Well, I have a question similar to this, but not as specific. Maui.
Is that
Hawaii.
somewhere where you actually go? Because I know you go to Hawaii.
Yeah, that's what we go to Maui. Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, if you were in the major leagues playing baseball professionally, what would your walk-up music be?
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever thought about this.
It's funny because we've asked it.
Yeah.
Never thought.
Let me think for a second. The Spins, Mac Miller.
Okay. Sticking with Mac Miller, just like our boys Bly and Jared had Post Malone. That's right. So, okay, well, that's all I got.
All right. So I'll just ask my vacation one because mine's kind of similar. I didn't say the part that you could go there forever, but like if you could take a vacation one place in the world right now, where would it be?
Oh. This is going to sound so cliche and so like white girl of me, but I'm sure that you've seen it on Twitter. Place looks unreal. Bora Bora. Like, I definitely.
Is that because you saw a TikTok saying it's cheap to do stuff there?
No, is it really?
Apparently,
no, this is this is going back years to when I was in high school.
Oh, really?
I used to see these insane images of that place.
So yeah, and I guess I've seen TikToks lately where I guess the flight is still expensive to get there, but everything you do there is like insanely cheap. Like they're saying like the meals you can do for like a few bucks.
Oh wow.
And like you can stay in like a what are they called? Like a little like hut sort of thing but like a nice one. You're not like in the middle of the jungle or anything. But like you can stay in this like a hut for I don't know, like $20 a night or something like that. But I guess it's like very cheap. It's just expensive to get there.
Well,
but Bora Bora, I mean that would be a nice place.
Around the 144527.
Is that their area code?
Yeah.
Doesn't really slip off the tongue like around the 412.
Nope.
Okay. Next one. We both love Primanti Brothers, and we both like specific things. Okay. Yeah. Well, you know. We both like specific things at Primanti Brothers. So if you could only get one thing at Primanti Brothers again, would it be the Sweet Heat Wings or the Pittsburgher? Because I know those are your typical go-tos.
Yeah. The Pittsburgher. The Sweet Heat Wings, I love them, but there are times where there's a little bit too much heat and not enough sweet. Okay. And they burn my mouth. You never have to worry about that with the Pittsburgher.
True. I just wish you didn't eat such a plain Pittsburgher, but that's neither here nor there. Last one. If you could attend any sporting event in the world, what would you attend?
You're going to be surprised by this, I think. I want to go. All right. I don't know that man. No, I'm second guessing myself. I'll stick with this. I want to go to like a premier matchup in either the Euros or the World Cup. Soccer games with unreal fan bases look insane.
Listen, I'm not surprised by that.
Really?
Because when I think about it, my head immediately leaves like American sports for some reason. Like I would want to go to like Wimbledon or I would want to go to like the World Cup final or something like that. Like, yeah, so I totally understand that. Like, if I could go to, or, I mean, even for me, like if I could go to a Chelsea Arsenal game, in England, I think that would be amazing for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't blame you. That would be sick.
Well, I guess I wouldn't be surprised to hear you say that, but for me to say a soccer event.
Hey, I mean, Tristan Jarry made you the biggest soccer fan in the world, so it is what it is. Also, Euros, Germany and France are both out.
I picked France, so.
Did you? Yeah, Switzerland knocked them out. England knocks out Germany.
I guess I'm rolling with England now. I mean, they got to be the favorites, right?
I would think
Belgium?
so. But yeah, Belgium probably is the contender. I don't know how the bracket looks, but that would be a pretty good final.
Yeah. Well, we don't normally talk about soccer, but here we are to wrap up the show talking about soccer. But I told you, like, even though I don't, I'm not the biggest soccer fan, I've always watched the Euros and the World Cup. So this is the time of year that I typically do get into this. But yeah, it's actually because of the game that you're talking about with England and Germany, like watching the fans in that game, I was like, this is unreal. When Harry Kane scored.
Yeah.
That is when I was like, I need to go to like a premier soccer matchup at some point.
You're also talking about England playing Germany, who upset them in 1996. They're playing in England in Wembley Stadium. I mean, that's like dream scenario for them, and they get their revenge on the Germans or whatever. Like that's how they're looking at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they didn't even need the US's help this time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to wrap this up, we once again just want to thank everybody. We hit the 10K followers on Twitter goal that we had set, so we're going to give away Steeler tickets. Literally. Well, I say tonight if you're watching this right now. Tonight, if you're watching this tomorrow or some other day, on June 30th, we gave away Steeler tickets for people that followed us on Twitter. So thanks so much for helping us reach that. If you would be so kind as to subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're watching that right now and you're not subscribed, it's right down below. If you're listening back to this, head to YouTube, type in Around the 412, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Again, right now, the big thing that we want on YouTube is the watch time. Throw us on in your background, mute it. I don't care. Just watch the videos when you see them put out. We're going to start doing weekly clips of the show like we used to do. We're bringing that back. So, there's just parts of the show that you want to watch. You don't want to watch the full thing. I can't blame you. We're over an hour. So, but that's coming back. So, again, any support that you guys show to us, we can't thank you enough for doing so. Same thing goes for our boy, Christian Circle at Keats Barbershop, located at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. He's open 11 to 7 Tuesday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturday. Every Tuesday, he has $5 off for military personnel, first responders, and nurses. Again, that's Keats Barbershop at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. That's the first time I've read it without looking at my phone. So if you're wondering why I stumbled there, that would be why.
Did well.
Great show, fellas. Thanks, Jake. Jake found us. We met up with him at the Senior Bowl in 2020. Ever since then, been one of our biggest supporters. So even though he's not a Pittsburgh fan, by the way, so
he's that loyal.
Show. Yeah, that loyal to the brand. Thanks, Jake. Oh, by the way, Jake Shavink NFL. He does have his own YouTube page, so follow that or subscribe to that, I should say, as well. He does great stuff over there. So be on the lookout for the announcement of the winner of the tickets and also the announcement of who our subscriber of the month is. Just another reason to be subscribed, because we got the Deontay Johnson jersey this month. Next month, we got the autographed Juju picture, which is massive. I'm not talking like an 8x10. This thing's a 23x5x27. So, yeah, I don't even know if you're going to have enough space in your man cave, whoever wins this thing, for this.
What is the by 5? 23 by 20. What's the by 5? Wouldn't that be depth?
23.5 by 27.
Oh, 20.5. I thought you said 23 by 5 by 27.
Oh, no.
Is it sticking out of the wall this much?
No. So, yeah, this thing's massive. And then the following month, so for August, it's a Minka Fitzpatrick jersey. Yeah, way to end the show with that. But anyway, 10K followers, ticket giveaway, Deontay Johnson jersey to one of our subscribers on YouTube. The great stuff keeps coming around the 412. Former Pittsburgh Penguin first-round pick, recently retired Bo Bennett will be joining the show very soon. We kind of teased that, obviously putting that great picture out there of him on the bench with Sid getting interviewed by Pierre. So he'll be joining the show in the very near future. We got a lot of cool stuff coming your way over the next few weeks. But until then, thanks for listening to this episode of Around the 412 presented by Crowworthy, where winners are serving winners coast to coast with sports, gambling, fantasy, blogs, all that good stuff and much more. You can head to crowworthy.com. Check out the Pittsburgh City page where podcasts like this one and blogs by your boys and so many more can be found. Follow them on Twitter at Crowworthy Takes, and of course follow us on Twitter at Around the 412. Until next episode, now the road to 20K starts. Until next episode, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.